Hello, my name is Joshua Adamegu, and I'm doing a hot topic presentation on climate change, the issue of climate change and how it is significant to public health. I want to start out by asking the question, what is climate change? Climate change includes both the global warming driven by human emission of greenhouse gases and the resulting large-scale shifts in weather patterns. Basically, climate change is the change in temperature, the change in weather on Earth. And I'm going to be looking at how it impacts society, how it impacts food, food around the world, how it impacts how people live around the world, and the health that the effects on people's health based on these significant changes in the temperature and weather around the world. I decided climate change is significant to public health because climate change affects both the social and environmental aspect of health, which varies based on location, obviously. But I thought that climate change is really important when it comes to public health because it impacts, the air we breathe, the food we drink. The food we eat. Sorry, the water we drink. Even our living area, the temperature that we walk around every day. So if those things are significantly being affected, like they are in climate change, if the temperature rises drastically, more people would get skin burn, skin cancer might come from this. Different type of negative side effects might come from this. If, if these gases keep filling up the air, we won't have this clean air, which would affect our, different systems in our body. Same thing with water. The water we drink would be, negatively affected, which would affect our overall health. And that's basically the main reason I decided to look into climate change and how significant it is on the public's health. To go more into detail, climate change impacts health in many instances, including increased respiratory and cardiovascular disease, injuries and premature deaths related to extreme weather events, changes in the prevalence and geographical distribution of food and water-borne illnesses, and other infectious diseases and threats to mental health, which are all very significant impacts of climate change that affect the health of our body, our mental health, and overall the health of society. So this is very important, very significant. I also found this screenshot here from the American Public Health Association, the website. This quote basically says, "We are committed to making sure the nation knows the effect of climate change on health. If anyone doesn't think this is a severe problem, they are fooling themselves." By the APHA Executive Director George Benjamin in the Washington Post. This right here when I saw this, I kind of realized like this is a serious issue and it does affect the health of many people's lives and really the whole society. So I felt like this was a good screenshot to include in here because it shows that, credibility of this situation and shows that climate change is really a significant impact on health. So the rate of climate change on health is definitely increasing drastically. The current rate that climate change is negatively impacting society is at a rapid increasing rate. As it continues, it is predicted that between 2030 and 2050, climate change is expected to cause approximately 250,000 additional deaths per year from lack of food, malnutrition, diarrhea, heat stress, which are all health impacts and outcomes of climate change, which are very significant because these are just few of the many different scenarios where people would die from climate change. Climate change as a whole is a very serious issue. But when you look into the details of what climate change is doing to the weather, to the food, if we calculate it over the years, like it says here, 2030 to 2050, we see that a lot of people are affected by the different outcomes that climate change poses on society, which is really negative, and we need to start looking at different ways to combat this and find solutions, which I do have on the next slide. So these are the solutions I have here for climate change. First, I feel like is the most important one, wind turbines, because the main problem here of fossil fuel is how it burns the gases and those gases get emitted into the air. So right here it says the problem fossil fuel sideline zero emission wind energy to help reduce burning of fuel, which drastically impacts the air quality, oceans, water, and much more. You know, if we use wind turbines and we start reducing fossil fuels and burning coal and burning different, forms of fuel that get released into the air, then our air quality would be much better, which would reduce a lot of those negative effects we saw earlier in the slides. Also, we see here reduced food waste and waste of mass-produced food for monetary gain. And this is very important because in today's society, restaurants, fast food, these kind of things run society. And with a lot of those fast foods and, there's different regulations, meaning all the food you make during that day, you have to throw it out before the next 24 hours and different things like that. That causes a lot of food waste. And, these wasting of food impacts, our whole society because if we waste less food, if we keep mass producing food, where killing different animals that don't need to be killed, and we won't really say that the animals population is going to decrease because if we basically were using GMOs and different kind of methods to increase how much cows we make, increase the population of these different animals, which are all negative. If you look into it, really, the GMOs are affecting everyone's health, everyone's body. So it really, there's layers to it. And on the surface of it is basically we need to reduce food waste. The next thing we need to do is the adoption of a plant-rich diet, which is slowly being implemented. You can see it, in modern society. We see different things like a non-meat burgers, different things like that we see on commercials, which is very good that they're implementing that for people that decide to go vegan, and more people should definitely adopt this idea of plant-rich diet. The next thing is tropical forest restoration and less burning of forests, less burning of trees. These burning of these different things, first of all, reducing, these plants that help clean our air, that help give us oxygen. Also, the burning of this, of course, leads to a negative effect of our air quality. And the last thing I have here is solar farms, which also helps reduce the burning of fuels because these solar farms are kind of renewable energy sources that don't impact our air quality the same negative way that fossil fuels affect our air quality. So overall, these are 5 very significant solutions that we could use to combat climate change. And if we do impact these into our society, we will definitely see a positive impact, a positive, outcome. And from what I showed in the previous slide of 2030 to 2050, how many deaths would happen if we include these solutions into our everyday lives, that number would definitely significantly be reduced and decrease. In conclusion, the main topic that I looked at here was the issue of climate change and its impact on public health and how it impacts, the society, the society and all the people of the society's health in general. And I explained the main significant issue, which is how climate change and how the change of weather patterns and how the gases left in the air can negatively impact the air quality, our safe drinking water, our sufficient food, and proper shelter, which is basically, these are the main categories that the climate change negatively affects in health. And I went more in depth by looking at how climate change impacts significant things such as our respiratory, cardiovascular disease, injuries, and premature deaths related to extreme weather events, changes in prevalent and geographical distribution of food and waterborne illnesses, and other infectious diseases, and even threats to our mental health. These are all very significant impacts that climate change has on society and has on public health in general. I also went to look at how it's increasing over time, and we saw that by 2030 and 2050, there's going to be over 250,000 additional deaths per year if we look at how bad it is right now. But for that to be reduced, we also found some solutions here, which are wind turbines, reduce of food waste, adoption of a plant-rich based diet, and then less burning of forests, and also incorporating solar farms. All of these and more will help reduce climate change and our solutions to help stop the negative effects that are happening on public health. Thank you for listening.